all across America and around the world. This is Veterans Radio. This is Veterans Radio. And now, your host for today's program, Dale Throneberry.
Now, welcome to Veterans Radio. My name is Dale Throneberry, a CW2 helicopter pilot in Vietnam in 1969. I want to welcome you to our monthly benefits program. So if you've got a question for us today, you can call us at 734-822-1600. That's 734-822-1600. Just a quick reminder that right now we are live. But if you're going to be listening to any of some of our affiliates across the country, normally those programs are, today's program is pre-recorded and we ship it out to you folks. But if you want to get in on this, on the first Sunday of every month is when we have our live benefits program. So again, that number, if you're listening right now, is 734-822-1600. On today's program, we've got a couple of interesting things going on. We've got a guest who's going to be talking to us about Guardian Angel medical service dogs. We were going to talk about this last week, but snowstorm occurred all over our area, and so Brian was not able to make it. And of course, we've got Caroline Fausone from Legal Help for Veterans here to chat about things that are going on with the VA. We've got some VA news. There's a couple. I just got a thing this morning from someone that there's been a change near the top, not the top of the directors, associate assistant directors, and so on. So we're going to talk about that a little bit as well. The other thing is that we're going to be promoting the Medal of Honor Society's convention that's going to be in Detroit and at the end of September, beginning of October. And I've got a little segment that we'll play later on that my partner Jim Fausone's put together where he talks about what to look for at that. So I am excited about that. Before I bring on Brian to talk about guard dogs or service dogs, I got to make sure we thank our sponsors. Can't do this program without them. So number one, of course, is Legal Help for Veterans. Legal Help for Veterans specializes in veterans' disability claims. Give Legal Help for Veterans a call at 800-693-4800 or go to their website, legalhelpforveterans.com. The National Veterans Business Development Council, better known as NVBDC, is the nation's leading third-party authority for certification of veteran-owned businesses. For more information, go to their website, nvbdc.org. Give them a call at 888-237-8433. Locally, the Irwin Press Corps and American Post 46 and the Charles S. Kettles Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 310, both of Ann Arbor. If you'd like to support Veterans Radio, and we would love to have your support, please go to our website, that's veteransradio.org, and click on the donate button. We can always use that. You know, unfortunately, it costs money to produce this program and get it distributed across the country. So, and your deductions may be tax deductible. You need to talk to your tax advisor about those things. All right. So right now, let's bring it on the air. With me is Brian DeLong. Brian is the regional coordinator for Guardian Angels medical service dogs. My mouth isn't working so well this morning or this afternoon. So anyway, Brian DeLong, regional coordinator for Guardian Angels medical service dogs. He's retired Air Force First Sergeant, and I thought I was the only one that counted days in the service. He said he was in for 30 years, 4 months, and 11 days. I was only in for 3 years, 7 months, and 2 days, but who counted? So Brian, welcome to Veterans Radio.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
It's a pleasure to have you on. So tell us about Guardian Angels medical service dogs.
Well, we're Guardian Angels medical service dogs. We breed, rescue, raise, and train highly skilled service dogs to mitigate disabilities. Our dogs are trained to help with diabetes, seizure disorders, traumatic brain injuries, PTSD, mobility issues, a myriad of other things. We've been around for just a hair over 15 years. Last year was our 15th anniversary. When we connect these service dogs with these veterans, We have a 59% reduction in symptoms, anxiety, depression. We have our recipients of our service dogs. There's only a 3% divorce rate, and of all the dogs we've paired, just a hair over 450. I think we're at 452. There are 0 veteran suicides, which, as a veteran, is the reason I took the job when they offered it to me. That speaks volumes to me. And if I can do anything to help with that in any way, shape, or form, by golly, I sure will. So, that's kind of what we do. We raise these dogs. We're a nonprofit. We've been around for 15 years. A friend of your show, Keith King, always supported us, always took care of us. In fact, we've had quite a few donations rolling in the past few weeks in honor of Mr. King. I see as they come in on my daily updates. So we appreciate all those who donated, and we appreciate you remembering Keith. Really good guy.
Absolutely. He was a good friend of Veterans Radio as well. NBVDC is, one of our bigger sponsors he was a good guy, and I know that in talking with his wife that how much he supported the Guardian Angels program that you have out there. In fact, we have a board member on Veterans Radio who has one of your dogs, and she just loves her dog. The dog's name is Cat. I don't know, but anyway, and Cat goes everywhere, which is great.
I know the dog. There's quite a few up there in Michigan. Up your way.
I think so.
Yeah.
So tell me what does it take to get a service dog from Guardian Angels?
So you have to have a valid disability that's been certified by a doctor. It can be a VA doctor. It has to be a licensed physician. And you go on the website and apply. It's that simple. And all of our dogs obviously are donated to the veterans that get them. These dogs cost us about to train a dog takes about 2 years to train a veteran and pair the veteran, meaning flying that veteran to Florida, housing them, feeding them, whatever it takes for the 2 weeks they're going to be in initial training with their dog. It costs us about $37,000, for which a veteran never pays a dime. So it's as easy as applying. And the ladies that are recipient coordinators, if for some reason you don't qualify for our program or it's not right for you, they have lists and names and phone numbers of, hey, I don't really want a service dog. Now that I've read up about it, even though I applied, I really just want a companion animal. And they do good referrals. So we help in any way we can with whatever we can. So
when you're talking about a disability, are there certain disabilities that you're looking for, or is it just anything that's service connected?
And it doesn't even have to be service connected. You could develop non-service connected diabetes after the service, because as we know, sometimes with the VA, nothing's service connected, but you could just be a diabetic and be a veteran that served 3 years flying helicopters, risking their life every day for 3 years. And we could hook you up with a dog. We've done some, outside the box stuff. Back in 2019, a young man was actually accidentally shot. He was 8 years old. They had to put for lack of medical knowledge, they had to put a fake piece of skull on this young man. The problem was at 8 years old, you have, the same energy I have is 8 cups of coffee. Well, Carol, our founder, trained him a dog. The dog's name was Alice. Alice was by his side all the time and was trained to lay down underneath him if he fell.
Okay.
Or if there was swelling to his brain, the dog would alert so the parents could go get him to the hospital. And in 2019, Alice, dog that we trained, was actually the national dog of the year, as voted by like the American Kennel Club and all the breeding associations and the Police Canine Association. She was the hero dog of the year for the entire country. But yeah, we we can do things outside the box. The biggest thing is the zero suicides, but the other big thing is these folks regain their independence. If you're incapacitated, you're in a wheelchair. How humiliating it is that you're trying to watch the ball game and you drop the remote. You have to yell across the house, "Hey, honey, can you come pick up the remote?" The dogs are trained so well they don't even have to be told. So if you're in a wheelchair and you drop something, the dog picks it up and gives it to you. Or if you need the house keys, the dog can go to the kitchen and get the keys off the counter for you. I mean, so yeah, it doesn't have to be service-connected disability. It could be darn near anything. There's only a few things that we don't do. I mean, and they're all trained by your sense. So it's a wonderful process.
Yeah.
Maybe I can get the general up to Williston one day and we'll meet and we'll take a tour of the campus.
I would love that, Brian. This sounds extremely interesting. Being a nurse, how do you connect? Because I've been involved with some other service dog agencies, and they had a rule that they selected the dog that best complements the veteran. So, maybe I like that Bernedoodle over there, but they say, it doesn't have the personality like you. How do you match up the personality?
So part of our process is after you apply, when we interview you, we say to you, so we're just going to tell you that as many veterans, you've been shut in your house and you've had anxiety for 2 years, but you're going to go back to a semblance of what you used to do. What does life look like? What do you really want to do once you can go outside? And so we kind of do that. Sometimes age pairs into it. So we have a gentleman up here. He was 72 when he got his service dog. And he said, I'm just real laid back. I like to go on walks and I like to sit on the side of the lake and fish. And so, we had a dog in training that had a little bit less energy, wasn't so driven, didn't want to chase the ball all the time and things like that. So we do really fit the right person to the right dog.
So because this is extremely interesting for me, how do you handle the veteran who lives by himself or herself, has no family around, and if there's an incident, what happens to the dog? How is the dog cared for if something happens to the veteran? How are you alerted?
It depends on what happens to the veteran. If you're talking about an injury, we had one a couple of weeks ago. One of our older veterans here in Pittsburgh slipped and fell, had to go to the hospital. The dog's in the hospital with the veteran.
Okay.
On occasions, the dog's in the hospital bed with the veteran. So our dogs in our name says medical service dogs. Our dogs are licensed medical equipment. It's just like dragging an oxygen tank around. So if they got to pick you up in an ambulance, the dog goes with you. If not, there's a little card that most of our dogs or our recipients carry. If something happens, call this number. And I have myself, and we have, all sorts of people all around the country that are always willing to help if something terrible happened. If there was a death, if the veteran became deceased, we would send one of our traveling trainers up to recover the dog.
We're talking here with Brian DeLong. He's the regional coordinator for Guardian Angels Medical Service Dogs. And just asking questions here as we go along. Are there certain types of dogs that you folks use, or is it any kind of breed?
Well, we breed German Shepherds, and in the rescue program, they will rescue just about any dog. The German Shepherds, the actual bloodlines that we've bred, there's 100 markers for what makes a good service dog. Generally, our dogs have 94 to 98 of those markers. But there are certain things we look for, like hunting dogs are really good at hunting and tracking, but they're not really good at, alerting a diabetic that their sugar is low or high, that Carol's found over the years. I'm sorry, Carol's our founder and CEO. She started by training a dog for her son, who is an Iraqi uh, war veteran. Her father was also a Korean War veteran, and so she does do it from her heart for all the right reasons. But she also does what they call a temperament test. So we'll go and get a Labrador mix at the rescue at the shelter. We'll bring them back. They'll test them out for about, sometimes if it goes bad, sometimes they'll know as quickly as 2 weeks, but up to a month. But on the plus side, if the dog doesn't make the program, they have a dog that's so well trained, that's so easily adoptable that they're like, if it fails, call us back, because then all of a sudden they have a dog that can sit, stay down, heel, the whole bit. So, if it does go in the wrong direction with a dog, other things like we look at it as, a lot of the veterans are retired. We don't want dogs that need a lot of grooming. We don't, huskies, and especially, heck, if you're a disabled veteran and it might be hard for you to get that husky or that poodle to the groomers, every other week or so. So there's a lot of things we take into account. Like I said, Miss Carol's, she's wonderful. She's been doing it for 15 years. She's been involved with animals her whole life. So we have a good way of picking them out, and we have a good way of breeding them.
So if I wanted to get a dog, could you kind of go through the process of, I know you mentioned it earlier on, but take me through the steps if I want to apply to get a dog.
If you want to apply to get a dog, you go to medicalservicedogs.org, and it says apply. And you fill out a one-page application, and usually within about 36 hours, Connie will call you and say, okay, we got your application. Now I need to send you the full application, because we don't want you disclosing stuff up front on that first application. We're just asking you, are you disabled? Name, address, phone number type things. And then they start the process. And, like I said, it's very thorough. They're very good at what they do. I've only worked for them for 2 years. I've been raising money for them for about 6 or 7 through my VFW post. But yeah, and it's as simple as that. And they'll call you, and then they'll email you the full application packet. What's your disability? Send us a copy of a letter from your doctor, things like that. And then they move on from there. You go on a waiting list. Right now, our waiting list is about a year to a year and a half, because the size of our facilities in Florida, we can only pair about 50 dogs a year out of there, which is also why I'll bring up we're building a second campus here just on the outskirts of Pittsburgh. We believe that we'll be able to do about 70 or 80 additional dogs a year, with our ultimate goal being 90 days from the time you apply to the time you get your dog.
Wow.
And 90 days is still reasonable, because we still want to do a background check. We still want, you have to have financial means to be able to take care of the dog. You have to be able to feed it, so.
Question. So as a review, we know now we can just go to your website, medicalservicedogs.org. And I might have asked this already, but do you have to be a veteran to apply? Or
No.
can it be an EMT, a police officer, anybody? You mentioned the young man that had the head injury.
We technically will do anyone with a disability, meaning anyone. The way it breaks down, though, is 94% of our applicants are veterans, about 4% are first responders, and the remaining are just regular civilians.
Okay.
So.
Well, Brian, I want to thank you so much for being on the program. And obviously, it's a great idea. It's a great service that you're providing, not only to veterans, but to anybody else who needs service dogs. And there's a lot of people out there that need help. And I keep thinking, I can't remember the author's name, but there was a book that we covered a long time ago called Until Tuesday. And it was about a veteran whose dog was named Tuesday, and it saved this poor guy's life. And I'm sure there are many stories just like that. So thank you very much. For our audience, it's medicalservicedogs.org. They're down in Florida, but they're also going to be out in Pittsburgh hopefully shortly. And Carol Ann's yelling at me. I got a question. Okay,
Well,
go ahead.
I want to say, Brian, this is awesome, but can you tell our audience if I want to donate and where should I send money to if I want to contribute to this building of this new place in Pittsburgh? So that was my comment, Dale. Where should we go?
Well, we'll go right back to medicalservicedogs.org, and it'll give you all your links to donate. Whether you want to do a monthly donation, a lump sum donation, there's all kinds of ways to donate. Check with your tax advisor. RMDs are now fully tax deductible. If you have to take a required minimum distribution and you donate that to a 501c3 like ourselves, it's tax deductible.
Excellent. So, thank you.
So yeah, just go to the website and you can donate there, and you can. Dale knows how to get a hold of me now, so you. If all else fails, get with Dale and he'll get a hold of me.
I've got the secret number.
Yeah, you do. You do. And if you're in Pittsburgh and you'd like to help, June 6th, our VFW holds our annual service dog fundraiser. So
June 6th. All right. Should be thawed out by then.
Yeah.
One would hope. Thanks very much, Brian.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you, Brian.
Okay. medicalservicedogs.org. That's the place to go to help out with these dogs. I'm going to play a little segment that Jim Fausone recorded talking about the Congressional Medal of Honor conference that's coming up in Detroit at the end of September. So we recorded this, and he's talking about the event itself, and he's also talking about a Medal of Honor recipient. So, Derek, whenever you're ready, you can go.
The Congressional Medal of Honor Society convention will be held in Detroit from September 29th to October 3rd of 2026, featuring the largest gathering of living Medal of Honor recipients. It brings together as many as 60 living Medal of Honor recipients for a series of public and private events aimed at sharing their heroic stories and promoting the values of the Medal of Honor, such as commitment, integrity, courage, sacrifice, citizenship, and patriotism. This event will also include community engagement activities allowing recipients to connect with the local Metro Detroit students, veterans, and active military members. This convention represents a unique opportunity for the city of Detroit and surrounding area to honor its military heroes and foster a spirit of patriotism and community engagement. You can learn more about this upcoming convention at medalofhonordetroit.com. You can go there to support it with financial resources and volunteer support. Let me tell you about one of these men, James Livingston. He grew up in rural Georgia at a time when the area was still recovering from desperate economic times. He went on to Auburn University in Alabama. He was admitted to the Naval Reserve Officers Training Corps. That's NROTC. It allowed him to prepare for the future in his education and ultimately become a Marine officer. He earned a Bachelor's of Science in Engineering and went on to do 2 combat tours in Vietnam. It was the events on May 2nd, 1968 in the hamlet of Dao Do that would define and place him in military history. He was a captain commanding Marines in a brutal engagement deeply entrenched in North Vietnam forces. The fight was savage and the terrain offered almost no cover. Captain Livingston repeatedly led assaults across open rice paddies swept by enemy fire, personally destroying enemy positions, rallying the Marines, evacuating the wounded under fire, and refusing medical evacuation himself despite serious wounds. For these actions, he was awarded the Medal of Honor. Livingston's military career continued. He retired as a Major General, and he became a vocal advocate for veterans and improved military readiness. He co-authored a book called Noble Warrior, a compelling account not only of his upbringing, but the fight that focused him into history. Through these deployments, Livingston continued to have a strong family life, and to his daughters he is remembered not as a general, but as a father, and to his Marines he is remembered not as a distant figure, but a mentor. You can learn more by going to the Congressional Medal of Honor Society site, cmohs.org, and remember to visit medalofhonordetroit.com.
Okay, so mark your calendars, folks. That's going to run from September 30th to October 3rd. It's the Medal of Honor Convention in Detroit. We'll be there. Hopefully we'll see you there as well. I think it's going to be a great opportunity for us to talk again to any of the surviving Medal of Honor recipients. You know, there have been a little over 3,500 Medal of Honor recipients over the years. And luckily here at Veterans Radio, over the last 23 years, I think we've talked to 12 so far. And I'm pretty excited to be able to maybe see some of these face to face that we had the opportunity to talk to earlier on. So today, as I mentioned before, is our benefits program. And joining me right now is retired Brigadier General Carol Ann Fausone from Legal Help for Veterans. She is a nurse, and she was, as I say, a retired Brigadier General of the United States Air Force. Nurse person, very active locally in the veteran community. In fact, this is a little tooting her horn right now, is that the women's clinic at the Ann Arbor VA, Charles S. Kettles Medical Center, is named after her. So I think that's very cool. So you can tell she's had a big influence. So Carol Ann, thank you for joining us again today.
Thanks, Dale. And going back to when you started the program with Brian, so I served 36 years, 11 months, and 9 days. And I think we remember those, and I think we would all three of us go back and do it all over again.
Absolutely. Although I'm a little bit smarter now than I was then. You never know.
Absolutely. And you know, just listening to Brian and Jim's presentation about the Medal of Honor, you know, I sit back here and I think, how could we get the word out more and more about the benefits, education, and the opportunity? I mean, we're on the air all the time. Organizations are out there. Our veteran service communities, VFW, DAV, American Legion, they try to get the word out. But it seems like you find out when it's too late that a spouse, a widow, didn't know about the substitution, and there were claims out there that now have died after a year because nobody told them that they could keep them alive. And that's always discouraging to me when somebody is struggling and they don't know about the benefits that are afforded to them.
Well, I think it would be interesting, and I was just thinking about that. I don't know if we could ever get a commercial radio station to agree to, have us go, wouldn't it be great to go on your local talk radio program wherever you live and, have somebody like you or Brian or somebody else, another VSO type of person, that can, do a 5-minute segment once a quarter or so on, just to remind people that these things are going on, because, most of us don't pay attention a lot of times, or we don't share the information that we have. And as you mentioned, there's a lot of widows and widowers out there that could be missing out on things that they're entitled to.
I think the VA is trying more and more with the echelons of care, doing the clinics and the reach, that it would be great to put out maybe something from on high down out there so the veterans know what their benefits are. I mean, we think when they are leaving the service, the young men and women today, that they are briefed. And I want to tell you, I think if you ask 100 of the veterans from my era, global war on terrorism, Vietnam, Korea, all they want to do is get home. And yeah, they were probably briefed, but who was really listening? You know,
Right.
I don't think that ever happened. And then when you find out 20 years later, you know, Brian mentioned burn pits. I mean, that is huge, that exposure. And you never realize what it does to your health 10, 15 years later. Or a traumatic brain injury. You know, all of the TBIs are not initially acquired. Some are 3 years later, 5 years later when you're struggling. And just to hear Brian talk about the dogs, that and the suicide rate with his organization, that was such a blessing to hear that, because the suicide rate is one of the fallouts from the PTSD and the lack of reintegration, let's say, into society.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously that's true. And most of us, when we got out of the service, it was the last thing we thought about. All we wanted to do was get home and put all that behind us. And unfortunately, in many cases, as you mentioned, 5, 10, 20, 30 years down the road, something comes up and they're going to, were you ever exposed to some toxic thing? And you go, yeah, well, here it is. You've got this now. And I think that that's something that we have to constantly remind people. I know the VA is doing, I don't know if they are doing some sort of podcasting. I saw on the website the other day. I don't know if they're, doing podcasting like we're doing, where they record it and they upload it to a particular platform. But there are some audio files on the website that talk about certain types of issues. And I know that like you and Legal Help for Veterans, you have a whole series of ebooks that you've got out there talking about almost every conceivable question that a veteran could have.
Well, when I'm down in Florida, I'm teaching the veterans class, and there's no charge for any of those. It's to explain to veterans all over what they're entitled to. And the classes, I've been doing this now 7 or 8 years, and it's really interesting when the veteran comes. And I love it when the spouse comes, because they ask so many questions, and then I get the follow-ups. And the majority of those will seek help, whether it's, at the local VA medical center or a clinic or a county counselor, a VSO. They will call and attempt to find out what benefits they're entitled to. So I think that's so important. And I know they call in to us at Veterans Radio to ask questions. And I think that's really important to do too, to keep the lines always open to all of our veterans.
Yeah. Well, Brian is still hanging around. And so I'm going to bring him back on, because Brian, you had mentioned before we went on the air that you're kind of the VSO for your local VFW.
Oh, no, sir. I'm the actual commander, but our VSO, but by VFW rules, we can't call them that anymore unless they're accredited. Ours is not accredited, but he does happen to work in the benefits section for the VA.
Well, in Pittsburgh with your group, what have been some of the not the most important one, but most consistent claims that your groups are making these days?
Well, with the younger guys, it's a lot of the Vietnam Agent Orange, impact stuff. I got a lot of guys, developing COPD, and from what I didn't read up on it, but from what I understand, COPD wasn't covered on the in the PACT Act, but he did a little homework for himself and found out there was asbestos on his ship. So he was able to get help that way. So the older guys, it's a lot of the Agent Orange things. The younger guys, it's a lot of musculoskeletal problems, bad backs, bad necks, like me, bad shoulder, things like that. A lot of them, especially with a lot of our troops that, that's why I joined the Air Force, is I wanted to fly in a plane. I didn't want to jump out of one. So a lot of the guys that are younger veterans here at our VFW, they've got a lot of the musculoskeletal issues, backs, knees. Another one that's kind of become prevalent only because people didn't know about it was plantar fasciitis. I've had foot pain since a year after I got out, and
Right.
and they don't list foot pain in 38 CFR, but they do list plantar fasciitis. So
I hadn't even thought about those darn boots we had to wear all the time.
correct.
Brian, I think the importance, and we bring it up here, going to an accredited, knowledgeable individual, because if you're working the cases all the time, now you brought up the COPD. So then those would say, okay, is there asthma related, the respiratory issues, cardiac issues? And I bet you with the Agent Orange presumptives, we could help build a case to what you were exposed to. And so, I think that's the experienced person that has been doing this, that knows how, as I would say, to peel the onion back, to do an assessment, just not do the one thing that the person walks in and says, I can't hear, I need hearing aids. But in the truth of it is we should be asking more questions. What was the era? What was your MOS? How many years did you serve? Where were you located? And to do the big picture. And everybody is different. And so I wanted to bring up with the respiratory issues, because Brian, I think you brought it up when we were talking offline. The VA is coming up. I haven't seen the final list of some things that they might be changing in the near future. And one of them, believe it or not, is sleep apnea. So if you're diagnosed today, I believe, if you're diagnosed with sleep apnea, the CPAP, the whole shooting match, you come out with 50%. They are looking at changing that. I don't know what that means, but there are several diagnoses in the past that would obtain a certain rating. That's why it's real important when you go for your exams to talk to the provider exactly what you're going through. Don't be afraid to talk about your pain. Don't be able to talk about your mobility, your limitations. And I just completed, Dale, I think it's the 34th ebook, and it's all about the CMP exam and what to go in and do when you get the call, or, how to relate to your examiner. So I think that's really important, that you really talk to the provider about what you're going through.
Oh, it is important, because we know from personal experience going off for some of those exams, they didn't do anything. You go in for high blood pressure and you drive an hour to get this exam, and you're not even arrested, and they take your blood pressure and you're done. And nobody asks any questions. I wanted to go in to ask a couple of questions of either one of you. It's not these major conditions sometimes that you may be entitled to compensation for. It might be something like, all right, maybe you have high blood pressure, but also that goes through, eye problems. It goes into other issues, even into ED and those kinds of things that high blood pressure can cause, problems with. And so don't let it go away, or don't let it end just if they say, well, yes or no, as far as your high blood pressure claim is concerned. There's so many different things that are involved with that.
See, and Dale, that would be going back to what Brian and I mentioned earlier. An expert or person that's been experienced in this, might ask the question, okay, you have diabetes. What else goes along with that? Your vision, wounds, feet, the whole shooting match, your stomach, your GERD. So it's peeling that onion back, and those are called secondary diagnoses. And I'll tell you, those could add up very importantly. IBS, irritable bowel, the GERD, the eating disorders. I mean, PTSD could cause a lot of issues that people don't even think about. But an experienced individual, a veteran service officer, somebody that's been dealing with this, will know what questions to ask.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I think, we've here on Veterans Radio, when we do these benefit things, we've been talking about, not to necessarily, just go on and fill out the form on the VA's website, because as Brian mentioned, and so many people we've talked to is that they don't get any response in many cases, or it gets outright rejected because they forgot a particular form, or background information from their doctors, and so on and so forth. And I'm agreeing with what you say, Carol Ann, is you got to have a checklist that you have to go through and say, is this form in there, is that form in there, and so on and so forth. And talking to your fellow veterans at your VFW hall or your American Legion, whatever it is, that's a great source of information for people that have been successful, let's put it that way, in getting their disability claims approved. I just got an email from another organization, much like Legal Help for Veterans, wanting to know if they could come on and talk about some of the problems and issues that they've run into. So there are all kinds of sources out there for our listening audience. We're not just talking amongst ourselves here. This is to make sure that your veteran and your family especially, are aware of what you may be entitled to, or maybe they're aware of what you've already received, and that some of these benefits can continue going on. Right. Speaking of which, I just got a little note here that says we didn't run our Medal of Honor segment yet. So we have to do that. So we're going to come right back. Again, we're talking with Carol Ann Fausone from Legal Help for Veterans. We're talking with Brian DeLong, who is from the Medical Service Dog organization, but he's also with the VFW out there in Pittsburgh. So each week we play a Medal of Honor segment honoring these men and women who have received America's highest award for valor. So here's this week's.
The Medal of Honor is the highest award for valor in combat given a member of the Armed Forces of the United States. There have been over 3,400 recipients of the nation's highest award. This is one of them. PSC Eugene Obregon pulled a fellow Marine to safety, then shielded his body with his own. Details after this.
If you have a VA claim denied by the Board of Veterans' Appeals, contact Legal Help for Veterans at 1-800-693-4800. They're experts in handling cases before the U.S. Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims. Their number again, 1-800-693-4800.
While serving as an ammunition carrier of a machine gun squad that was temporarily pinned down by North Korean fire, Obregon observed a fellow Marine fall wounded. Armed only with a pistol, he unhesitatingly dashed from his covered position to the side of the casualty. Firing his pistol with one hand as he ran, he grabbed his comrade by the arm with the other hand and dragged him to the side of the road. Still under enemy fire, he was bandaging the man's wounds when hostile troops of approximately platoon strength began advancing toward his position. Quickly seizing the wounded Marine's carbine, he placed his own body as a shield in front of him and lay there firing accurately and effectively into the hostile group until he himself was fatally wounded by enemy machine gun fire. Obregon enabled his fellow Marines to rescue the wounded man and aided essentially in repelling the attack.
The Medal of Honor series is a production of Veterans Radio.
Military veterans touch everyone's life. I'm guessing right now you're thinking of a veteran, a close friend, relative. Maybe it's you. Even the toughest of us sometimes need help, but don't know where to turn for support. You don't need special training to help a veteran in your life. We can all help someone going through a difficult time. Learn how you can be there for veterans. Visit veteranscrisisline.net. veteranscrisisline.net. A message from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs.
And we're back here on Veterans Radio, and we're talking about benefits, and we're talking about how do you apply for benefits, and we're talking about how do you, hopefully that you don't leave any of those benefits laying on the table. Our guests today are Brigadier General Carol Ann Fausone from Legal Help for Veterans, and we've got a friend along, Brian DeLong, who is Regional Coordinator for the Guardian Angels Medical Service Dog Organization. And so, I don't know where Carol Ann went, But
I'm right here. I
okay.
just lost the.
We just lost our video connection there. Okay. Um, has there been any changes that either one of you are aware of for 2026 that you've heard of?
I think we're waiting. I've heard there might be some changes in leadership, not with the secretary, but I'm waiting to see, Dale, as I spoke earlier, some of the rating changes, the scheduler, what you're going to get coming out of the chute. And the first one that I heard was sleep apnea. So we're we're watching that. Excuse me. But I think, just going back, tell our veterans to enroll, go into the VA Medical Center. If you are on a team or have a number or a color, talk to your provider. Let them know what you're going through. Because I'm getting calls all the time regarding the aid and attendants, the caregivers. How could they get some of those additional benefits that are out there?
That was a question that I was thinking about, Brian, when you were mentioning that when you were looking for, I guess, people's financial ability to take care of the dog itself once they've got that. Is there a program, or I wonder if there is a program through the VA that helps with that?
There is not. Current literature says that the VA will provide a service dog. In actual fact, they will provide you a list of service dog providers. And our founder and our COO both work closely with a lot of the folks in Washington, D.C., trying to help change that to see if the VA will fund service dogs or a portion thereof, or even if it's for something as small as having the VA fund the veterinary care for the dogs, which we take care of as well. So
yeah. Oh, you do already take care of that. I forgot about that.
Yeah, we're very transparent. The veteran pays a small monthly amount and then a deductible, but anything after that, I mean, we've had some dogs that have cost us, $10,000 to get them fixed, but
Sure.
We pay that. The veteran doesn't bear that cost.
Okay. Well, maybe that's something that we can talk to our local representatives about to get them to, to help, defray the cost of having a dog in the house, because, dog food's not cheap. Nothing's cheap right now, it seems. But, to get the proper care and everything else that these dogs deserve. You were mentioning that there was a change at the top a little bit, and that of the food chain at the Department of Veterans Affairs. They said that Chief of Staff Chris Cyrick is going to be leaving the VA for a private sector job, but they were talking about what they've accomplished over the last year. So, take some of all this stuff with a real good, grain of salt. But I think it's really important to look back. The VA said that they've cut back the backlog of veterans waiting for benefits by almost 60%. They've eliminated the backlog of veterans' families waiting for VA health care. Said that they've processed record numbers of disability claims, over what they say, reaching an all-time fiscal year high of 3 million claims processed by September 30th of this year. They've opened 25 new healthcare clinics. They've got 1.9 million appointments outside of the normal operating hours for veterans, meaning that they have appointments for early morning, evening, and weekend appointments, giving veterans more opportunity. And they've also stated that they've permanently housed almost 52,000 veterans in fiscal year 2025. So that's pretty good work. It's nice to see that there are things that needed to be changed, and I think they're working on it. There was an article about the case with the Los Angeles, I guess it's West Los Angeles VA, that they were being required to provide more housing for homeless veterans. Evidently, they have a huge campus out there. I was thinking about that when I read that article and saying, well, here in Ann Arbor, our VA hospital is landlocked. It's got 2 roads that go all the way around it. Got enough for the hospital, Fisher House, and a parking garage. That's about it. But where I come from in New Jersey, the Lions VA hospital it's huge. It's got enough room for a whole golf course on it. And I was going to ask a question for anybody out there, not today, but if you could send me an email, tell me a little bit about your VA building and facilities that are available to you. If you're listening in, send me an email. That's dale@veteransradio.org. And I'd like to find out a little bit, kind of an unofficial survey of what the veteran VA hospital facilities are like in your area. So can you do that?
Dale, you bring up an excellent point. An article that I read the other day talked about billions of dollars that were going to be spent in different components. And one of those was literally to go out in those areas where the service area for the veterans was really high, and they were looking at redoing some facilities, getting the services up to a really high grade of service for those high populated areas. And that was really nice to see. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was something like $2 billion was going to be set aside for facilities and upgrades. And I thought that was pretty interesting.
It was interesting. And they're also looking to hire where does it go? They're looking for somebody to lead the Veterans Benefit Administration. We had a Deputy Secretary Paul Lawrence, who had been on our program in between the Trump administrations. He says he can't talk to us right now because he's working for the VA, but they're looking for a new Veterans Benefits Administration secretary. So things are happening. And I think it's good. And we just got to keep our voices coming out loud and clear and letting people know what veterans need and what what we're trying to do for our veteran community.
I agree. And please, if you're out there and you don't have a disability benefit, but you have served this country, go find a VSO, go into the VA. They have veteran service officers there. Enroll, ask your provider. There's benefits out there for you. But if you don't ask, or for your family, if you don't ask, they're never going to just give you stuff.
No, they don't voluntarily give you that. So we've got a minute to go. So I want to thank Brian DeLong here again for sticking around. He was with the Medical Service Dogs organization. That's their website, medicalservicedogs.org. Doesn't make a difference if you're a veteran or not. If you qualify, they'll give you a dog, which is great. They'll train you and the dog.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Dale.
All right. Thank you. Caroline,
thank you for what you do.
Thanks you again. Thank you very much for being on again, Caroline, and we'll be talking to you soon, I hope.
Okay, thank you. Have a great week in a month.
No, I'll be back. All right, so today's great God Bless America is sung by David Bray. It's a bit different version of it, but you all know that I play God Bless America or some other patriotic song at the end of all of our Veterans Radio programs. So remember, we're still living in the greatest country in the world. Until next time, this is Dale Throneberry. For all of us at Veterans Radio, you are dismissed.
God